Chapter 7 Arm Exercise. Priscilla led Jack and Annie away from the village towards a large field. The Pilgrims and Wampanoag men had already gathered there. Jack couldn't hear the beat of a drum, but he could hear the beat of a drum, but he couldn't see what was going on. "Make haste, or we will miss it," said Priscilla. "Miss what?" asked Annie. "Captain Standish is about to lead the men and boys," said Priscilla. "They will exercise their arms." "Why do they exercise their arms?" Jack wondered. "Will they expect me to join in?" As he hurried after Priscilla towards the crowd, Jack practiced. He stretched his arms out wide. He made circles in the air, and then he flapped his arms up and down. Priscilla caught sight of him. "What art thou doing, Jack?" she asked. "Exercising my arms," he said. Priscilla smiled, and then she started to laugh. She laughed and laughed. So did Jack, but he wasn't sure why. A loud bang came from the field. Jack jumped. He started laughing. A puff of smoke rose into the air. As the crowd parted, Jack saw the Pilgrim men and boys proudly holding up their long guns. "What just happened?" said Annie. "The men fired their muskets," said Priscilla. "On special occasions, they like to show off their arms." "Oh," thought Jack. "Now I get it. The long guns are muskets, which are also called arms. So exercising arms means firing muskets." Jack blushed. Priscilla must think I'm an idiot, he thought. But she just smiled at him fondly. "I thank thee for making me laugh, Jack," she said. "I have not laughed hard in a long time." Jack shrugged, as if he had meant to make her laugh. "It is time now to serve our feast," said Priscilla. "I must help with the bread." "What can we do?" asked Jack. "Return to my home," said Priscilla. "Take the turkey off the spit, put it on a platter, and bring it to the table." "Oh, great. We get to help with the turkey," said Annie. "I always help with the turkey at home." "Good," said Priscilla. "May thou feel my home is thy home today." Jack was excited too. He and Annie were about to serve the first turkey at the first Thanksgiving. They ran back to the smoky house and rushed inside. "Where's the platter?" said Jack. Looking around, he saw a flat wooden block. That must be it. Annie picked up the wooden platter. "How do we get a turkey on it?" she asked. They moved close to the fire and stared at the turkey roasting on the iron rod. "That must be the spit," said Jack. The spit sat on iron legs. It had a handle. Jack pushed his glasses into place. "I'll lift the spit," he said, "and then we'll push the turkey onto the platter." "Be careful," said Annie. Jack reached out and wrapped his fingers around the handle of the iron spit. "Ow!" he shouted. The handle was super hot. He yanked his hand away and kicked the spit off its legs. The turkey fell into the flame. The grease from the turkey sputtered and popped. The turkey burst into flames. A fire roared. "Ah!" yelled Jack and Annie together. They jumped back from the hearth. Jack grabbed the water pot from the floor. He threw the water into the fire, and the fire sizzled and smoke billowed up. When the smoke cleared, the fire was out, but the turkey was completely black. Chapter 8 The Feast. Jack buried his face in his hands. "I don't believe it," he said. "I just burned up the Pilgrim's turkey." "Stay calm," said Annie. "I'll get Priscilla." "No, don't tell Priscilla," moaned Jack. "We have to tell Priscilla," said Annie. She hurried out of the house. Jack lifted his head and stared at the burned turkey. "Oh, man," he whispered unhappily. The Pilgrims had worked so hard to get their food. And they had had such a terrible winter, especially Priscilla, and now he had ruined their first Thanksgiving. The door opened. Anna pulled Priscilla to the hearth. "See," said Annie. The turkey fell into the fire. It burned up. I did it, Jack confessed. Priscilla just stared at the burnt turkey in the wet, messy hearth, and then she looked at Jack. She looked away from her. He looked away from her. Ah, Jack, Priscilla said softly, thou lookst sad. He nodded. I ruined everything, he mumbled. No, thou did not, said Priscilla. She reached out her hand. Come. Priscilla led Jack and Annie out of the bright autumn light. Look, she said. Jack saw pilgrim women and kids walking to the table, and they all carried wooden platters filled with food. In the other houses, there was cooking also, said Priscilla. Jack saw roasted ducks, turkeys, and deer meat. He also saw baked fish, lobsters, eels, clams, and oysters. He saw pumpkins, beans, and corn, dried plums, berries, and roasted nuts, steamy pots of soup and pudding, and loaves of baked bread. We had a very good harvest this fall, said Priscilla. We stored many vegetables. We salted our fish and cured our meat. And today, our Wampanoag neighbors brought back 5 deer from the forest for our feast. Jack was relieved to see all the food. Priscilla knelt down and looked him in the eye. See, thou did not ruin anything. Jack, she said, thou and Annie have helped me a lot this day. You have both made me laugh, and you have both acted with kind hearts. Jack was amazed. He thought he had been no help at all. Come with Priscilla. Let us join the others. Art thou hungry? Jack nodded. Seeing all the platters of food had made him really, really hungry. He and Annie followed Priscilla. In the golden glow of autumn light, Jack and Annie joined the pilgrims and the Wampanoag at the long tables. Priscilla gave Jack and Annie wooden plates. She gave them big white napkins, and she served them plenty of food. Before they started to eat, Governor Bradford stood up to speak. Those of us who came here on the Mayflower did not know how to live in this land, he said. But Squanto came to help us, and today we give thanks for him and the peace we share with his people, and for all our great blessings. Governor Bradford looked at Jack and Annie. Welcome to our feast, he said. At this moment, 3 worlds, your world, our world, and the world of the Wampanoag, are not 3. They are 1. 'Tis the magic of community. Indeed, said Annie. She clapped her hands and looked at Jack. We did it, she whispered. Did what? Thought Jack. Governor Bradford then put the napkin over his shoulder. Now, he said, let us feast till our bellies are filled. As everyone started to eat, Annie leaned close to Jack. We found the special magic, she whispered. The magic of community. Remember the rhyme? She repeated Morgan's words. To find a special magic, when work and toil are done, gather all together, turn 3 worlds into 1. Oh man, said Jack. He had forgotten all about it. We can go home now, said Annie. No way, said Jack. We have to eat first. Jack and Annie used their fingers to pick up their food, and they ate and they ate and ate. Jack tried everything on his plate except a little bit of eel and 2 clams. Everything he did eat, he liked, even the turnips. Food really tastes good, he thought as he chewed, when you eat it outside on a beautiful day with lots of nice folks. Chapter 9. Good day. Slowly the feast came to an end. The guests wiped their plates with their last bits of bread, and then they wiped their hands and faces with their napkins. Jack and Annie stood up. We have to go home, Annie said to Priscilla. Ah, Thou must go back to thine own community now, said Priscilla. Annie nodded, and then she kissed Priscilla on the cheek. Thanks for everything, Annie said. Jack wanted to kiss Priscilla too, but he was just too shy. Thanks, Priscilla, he said. I thank thee, Jack, she said. And then she leaned over and kissed his cheek. Jack felt his face grow red. Excuse me, sir, Annie said to Governor Bradford, but we must leave now. Oh, but we have not yet taught thee how to grow corn, said the little girl Mary. Squanto stood up. Come, he said. I will walk Jack and Annie back to the forest, and I will teach them. Oh, thou dost not have to do that, Jack said quickly. He feared that once they were alone, Squanto would figure out that they had never met before. But Squanto only smiled and waited for them to follow. Bye, everyone, said Annie, waving. Jack waved too. All the pilgrims and Wampanoag waved back at them. The skinny dog barked. Squanto led Jack and Annie away from the village towards the autumn woods. As they passed the cornfield, the dried stalks swayed in the breeze. They made swishing sounds. Squanto stopped walking. He pointed to the field. You must plant corn in the spring, he said. Put the seed in the ground when the oak tree bud is as small as a mouse's ear. Oh, wait, please, said Jack. He slipped his notebook and pencil out of his bag. It was the first time that he had had a chance to take notes all day. He wrote, How to plant corn. Oak tree bud, mouse's ear. Then he looked up at Squanto and nodded. Dig holes and put 2 rotting fish in each hole, said Squanto. Rotting fish, said Annie, making a face. Yes, rotting fish is good food for the soil, said Squanto. On top of the fish, place 4 corn seeds, and then cover them with dirt. Jack quickly wrote, 2 rotting fish, 4 corn seeds, and cover with dirt. Got it, he said, looking up. I give you these seed corns to take home, said Squanto, and he held up a small pouch. Thanks, said Annie, taking the pouch. Thanks a lot, said Jack. Well, goodbye. Jack was eager to get going before Squanto could ask them questions about their past. Wait, I have a question, said Annie. Squanto, why did you say you remembered us? Squanto's dark eyes twinkled. I did not say I remembered you, he said. I only said, I remember. What did you remember? Asked Annie. I remembered what it was like to be from a different world, said Squanto. Long ago, I lived with my people on this shore, but one day men came in ships. They took me to Europe as a slave. In that new land, I was a stranger. I felt different and afraid. I saw the same fear in your eyes today. So I tried to help you. Annie smiled. We thank thee, she said. And now you must always be kind to those who feel different and afraid, said Squanto. Remember what you felt today. Indeed, said Jack. Before closing his notebook, he added one last thing. Be kind to those who feel. Different and afraid. Squanto bowed. Good day, Jack and Annie, he said. Good day, they said. Squanto turned and headed back to the village. The sun was setting. All of the Plymouth was lit with a fiery light. It really was a good day, said Annie. Yeah, it was, said Jack. Annie sighed. Ready to go home? She asked. Indeed, said Jack. They started running through the woods. Their feet crunched through the red and yellow leaves. They scrambled up the rope ladder into the treehouse. From the distance came the sounds of the pilgrims singing a hymn and the Wampanoag beating their drums. Annie picked up the Pennsylvania book. She pointed to a picture of the Frog Creek woods. I wish we could go home, she said. Goodbye, Priscilla, Jack called. Goodbye, Squanto, said Annie. Goodbye, everyone. The wind started to blow. The wind blew harder. The treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster. Then everything was still. Absolutely still. Chapter 10. Thankful. Jack opened his eyes. He sighed. They were wearing their own clothes again. His leather bag was a backpack. Sunlight slanted through the treehouse window. As always, no time had passed at all in Frog Creek. Home, said Annie. She held up the pouch of corn seeds. Proof for Morgan we found a special magic. The magic of community, said Jack. Annie placed the pouch on the floor next to the scrolls from Shakespeare and the twig from the gorillas of the cloud forest. Let's go, she said. Jack took the research book out of his pack. He left it under the window, and then they climbed down the rope ladder. As they started through the woods, a warm wind blew, rattling the leaves. Jack felt happy. He was looking forward to visiting his grandmother today and seeing their cousins and aunts and uncles. You know, Pilgrim kids had a really hard life, said Annie. Yeah, they did as much work as the grown-ups, said Jack. Maybe more. Worst of all, lots of their friends and family members died, said Annie. Yeah, said Jack. Both were silent for a moment. If they could be so thankful, said Annie, we should really be thankful. No kidding, said Jack. Really, really thankful. And they were. And during this time, you can be pausing and reading a little more about the Wampanoags, the villages, and stuff like that. And with that, boys and girls, have a great day, and I hope you enjoyed this book, Magic Treehouse, number 27, Thanksgiving on Thursday. Stay tuned Monday, new book. See you then. Bye.